Howdy everyone, Pocho here with an Age of Magic video, and in today's video we are going to be covering the awakening the Dragonkin are receiving. There are 3 characters from the faction who are being awakened: Dracona, Volnnah, and Karana. So we will cover them and everything that is being added to this faction. So we'll start with Volnnah. I think she's the least exciting out of the 3 of them. So let's jump into her basic attack. Damage is increased by 50%, removes more buffs from the target. So this is actually really nice. It's a buff stripper, has a 20% chance per ally from the Warriors of Light Brotherhoods to remove 3 random buffs from the target. So there is a restriction to it having a 20% chance, but could be 100 if you have a full faction of Warrior of Light or the Brotherhood. But to remove 3 buffs from a basic attack, it's not horrible. But again, there's just so much more offered in other abilities. Moving over to her second ability, Young Sun. Damage is increased by 35%. The damage bonus for buffs on Warriors of Light allies is increased. Debuff ignores Fortitude when cast. So as you can see here, deals magic damage to 1 target. Ability damage is increased by 30% for each buff on allied Light Warriors. There's a 70% chance to decrease the target's accuracy to 0 for 3 turns. So that's really nice. So again, it's just influencing the ability more. Nothing crazy being added to it, just more damage, and just can't be ignored with Fortitude. So just, yeah, again, not adding anything insane. So wouldn't give it a high priority, but if you wanted more damage from this character, that's the way to do it. Moving on to her third ability, we Stellar Stream. Damage is increased by 35%. There's a 40% chance to cast Skip Turn on one enemy. On enemies for 1 turn, sorry. 40% chance to skip turn on enemies for 1 turn, deals much damage. It's an AoE, so love to test this. Would love to test this. The speed of enemies is further reduced. So this could be very interesting. The thing is, the Dragonkin aren't really a dominant PvP team. I feel like this would be really good for PvP. Volnnah is seen a fair bit in those high point COC teams. She has some very nice uses, and again, you're not really using her for this ability. That's the thing. So again, I don't really class many of these as high priority. Moving on to her passive though, we have each time an allied Dragonkin's HP falls below 40%, Volnnah receives a buff that increases the chance of critical damage for the next hit to 100%. Whenever an allied Dragonkin dies, Volnnah's ability cooldowns drop to 0. So her, yeah, when an allied Dragonkin dies, everything goes back to, well, they come off cooldowns. They can be used instantly when her turn comes around. What I like about this Dragonkin is one of those factions that has a healer that can resurrect. So it would lose power if there was no resurrecting on the team, but since there is resurrecting, you could see a lot of abilities being used as characters die, brought back, they die again, and so forth. So yeah, we have, I think this would probably be the important one. If you had to pick one to awaken, I think passive would probably be the one to go to. Volnnah receives a buff that increases the chance of critical damage for the next 100%. Chance to do critical damage is increased by 10% for each debuff on allied warriors. Yeah, I just feel like this would be the one to go first, and then probably this, then this. So from right to the left, that's how you go. Overall, nothing insane added to Volnnah, just increased damage, more effective in applying debuffs, and I guess better synergy with abilities, just being able to cast them more often when allies die. Again, most of this is conditional. You have to have an ally die. That's the only bad thing, is that's the condition. But yeah, that's Volnnah. We will move on to Karana next. Moving on to Karana, one of the early game heroes. She's one of the first healers introduced into the game, so her kit is quite outdated. Again, boosted with the release of Dracona, but then again fallen off as the game progresses. So how have they made her more valuable to the game and the Dragonkin faction, or just a healer in general? Moving on to her basic, we have Ray of Light. Damage is increased by 50%. The attack is guaranteed to reduce the target's accuracy to 0. Not horrible. Again, it's, I always mention this because Awakening is such a valuable currency in the game that I don't want to mislead people. I do not recommend basic abilities at all. I just don't. It is not benefiting you in a huge way, but it is always nice to see when there is more to a basic than the damage increase. This is really nice to have a basic ability that can reduce accuracy to 0, especially on a hero who has such long cooldowns on her abilities. You're going to find that you're using the basic a lot. So to hit targets, get the accuracy to 0, it's just going to add survivability to the team. That character is not going to be using any of their abilities. Essentially, if the character is slower than Kharannah, she could almost spam basic that character and just constantly have them only using their basic attack. Because when a character has accuracy decrease on them, they will not use a special ability. Or maybe there's very few cases, but on the most part, they are not using special abilities. It's one of the big advantages to versing AI. If you have an ability that can accuracy decrease, it's huge advantage to your team, because it's a guaranteeing, almost, unless they can cleanse or whatnot, that you're getting a full round of just the enemy using basic attacks. So again, this is probably one of the better awakenings I've seen on a basic ability. So if you are someone who is spending, you could find use. You could find, but yeah. Moving on to her second ability, Healing Light. Ability cooldown is reduced. Casts the damage limit buff on herself. Damage to Karana is limited to 10% of her maximum HP for 3 following attacks. High priority. 100% high priority. With the lack of Rogar in Dragonkin teams, you just never use Rogar because the other Dragonkin offers so much more. This is high priority. She is primarily one of the main targets on the enemy. They are going to go for her. She normally has some pretty good defensive abilities due to Dracona being able to decrease damage with his defensive abilities. But now being able to just reduce damage to 10% of her maximum HP is a huge amount of survivability to this character. Huge amount. And the ability cooldown is 4. So the ability cooldown is reduced. So again, you're getting this ability out more. And I do believe Dracona has the chance to reduce the cooldowns of a Dragonkin ally. So you may find yourself actually getting a fair amount of use out of Karana. That's really nice. It's really nice. There are a lot of characters that can bypass this. There's a lot of characters that can benefit from characters that apply this buff to themselves. Steinarg, for example, who would absolutely wallop Karana. But that's the beauty of the game. As it gets older and older, you're going to add something to a hero, and there's going to be someone that can counter it. And there's nothing ever wrong with that. It's just the evolution of the game. Power creep is a different thing. This just, you've got so many characters in the game that can perform so many different things that you have something like this, and there's a character that on paper has a solution to it. Moving on to her Resurrect, however, her final ability, Light of Heroes. Ability cooldown is reduced. Beautiful. Revived heroes get 100% initiative and 5 stacks of 20% damage increase for the next attack per each stack. So this is huge. 100% initiative straight off the bat. Again, this would be high priority. On a Dragonkin team, again, when abilities being cast is super important. This is a huge, again, on paper, we need to test it. But these are 2 really powerful awakening skills. When you consider someone like Volnnah, for example, who didn't really gain a whole bunch from her awakenings, Karana was shot in the opposite direction. She got, even her basic, she got huge benefits to all her skills, which is wonderful. Like I said, she's one of the first healers in the game. When you go over her kit, what she can do compared to healers nowadays is very, very limited. She's essentially just healing, where other healers can perform ridiculous amounts of benefits through their abilities. This is giving her a huge boost to her kit. This is amazing stuff. This is really boosting her effectiveness in battle in all forms of content throughout the game. So we'll move on to Dracona now, the final character, and we'll see what he is, again, adding to the faction. Finally, we have the big dog himself, Dracona, probably one of the cooler looking heroes in the game. He was a fan favorite when he was released. He just added so much to a faction that people really wanted for a long time. But enough about history of Age of Magic. Let's go into his abilities. Basic attack, damage is increased by 35%, has a 20% chance per allied dragon to ignore the target's armor. Yeah. Okay, moving on to his second ability, Dragon Emblem. If at least one enemy has the mark of the Dragonkin, so I believe Karana can apply it. Dracona removes all such marks from enemies and casts 3 stacks of Open Up debuff on all enemies. Damage to the target is always critical and increases by 35%. Oh gosh. Yeah, right. Okay. Oh, that is scary. Yeah. That is scary. That is scary, scary, scary. Oh, there are just characters on this team that can do a lot of damage. So to just have guaranteed crit. This also covers characters like Katar, who have a triple strike. So each strike is going to be guaranteed crit. 3 stacks. Damage to target. So I'm assuming that's how it works. Each stack is, you know, if there are characters that can do multiple hits in an attack, it's going to take away a stack for each one of those hits. So, for example, Katar, who does do 3 hits, is going to take away 3 stacks, but each hit will be a crit. Yeah, man. I mean, who have we got? Who are the damage dealers? We have Katar, Dexar, and Volnnah. Who Volnnah, again, does a lot of damage as well. And, you do also have Dexar, who can boost her damage through what Katar does. So, I mean, if you stack up a lot of stacks, very hard to do, but yeah, that's nasty. That's nasty. Moving on to his third ability, Dragon Cyclone. The ability cooldown is reduced, so for turn, damage is increased by 50%. The speed of enemies is further reduced. The damage bonus for each ally from the Dragonkin faction is increased. What is that? Ability damage increased by 30% per ally from the dragon. Okay, so the ability does do a lot of damage. We've always known it does a lot of damage. What's this part? I think it is that part. Yeah. So, again, this is just boosting the effectiveness of the ability. It's not really adding anything crazy to it. Just if you want more out of the ability, that's the way to go. Moving on to his passive. So this is where every Dragonkin adds a different thing. Awakening. If all squad members are Dragonkin, then as long as at least one ally is alive, Dracona's HP cannot go below 1. It's nice. Don't get me wrong. It's nice. Dracona's just not really the primary target on the team. So I don't know how effective this is going to be. He's normally the last one alive anyway, so I don't think you're going to really get much out of this. Again, it's not bad. I just don't know if you would prioritize this. I don't know. I can't justify classing it as a medium or high priority awakening just because I can't think of a situation off the top of my head. And again, it has been a long time since I've used the Dragonkin, but I can't think of a situation where he is eliminated first. So yeah, just I'm not sure about this one. Moving on to his leadership ability, damage to Dragonkin allies is reduced by 40%. Okay, so he's kind of following the traits of what's it? Arcane, her leadership ability, and Yuki. But this is his leadership ability, so it's always active. And damage to Rogai is reduced by 70%. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Again, still, they would have to add some really nice awakenings to Rogai, and I think you could potentially have a really powerful tank. Mix him with Fyra, and then this, and you have a tank that's going to be... Oh, he would be beefy. I almost put his tankiness on the level of Ramfort. The only downside is Ramfort is tanking naturally, whereas Rogar would need both Dracona as the leader and a Fyra support to become tanky. So I'm not saying Rogar is going to be as good as Ramfort in any means. I'm just saying with the support of the right characters, Rogar could be quite a menacing tank, just taking a lot of damage and having a very long taunt. Now, let me just double check something before we sign off. We can go to Karana. Yeah, so she puts the... Yeah, okay. So you'd lead with this ability, give herself the damage mitigation, and then you would come through with the Dracona and... Is it this ability? Nope. And then use this ability, which you do. This is the first ability you use because it reduces all incoming damage 50%. Huge, again. So, yeah, I like that they think about this stuff, you know. That's good synergy between Kharannah and Dracona, and they're both characters you're always going to have on the team. But there you go. Those are the awakenings for the Dragonkin. I think they've done quite well, especially with Kharannah. I think they've very much boosted her use within the game. It's going to be interesting to see how people use her. A side note as well, she's a very, very valuable healer in the raid that just passed, the Doom raid, I believe it was. So, yeah, again, we'd just love to see how that's going to affect her performance in there as well. But there you go. There is the Dragonkin Awakenings. Hope you guys like them. And I've got to update the spreadsheet as well. I know I'll get to it, I promise. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I will answer it to the best of my ability. And wherever you're on the world, until next time, please take care of yourself.